Dzień dobry Państwu. Chciałbym Państwa niezwykle serdecznie przywitać na 4. edycji konferencji Business Insider Trends. Nazywam się Paweł Pilarczyk i będę Państwa hostem na dzisiejszym wydarzeniu. Ogromnie się cieszę, że mogę się z Państwem ponownie spotkać osobiście. Rok temu ze względu na pandemiczne ograniczenia wydarzenie odbyło się wyłącznie online, ale powoli wracamy już do normalności. W tym roku nasze wydarzenie odbywa się już w formie hybrydowej, to jest bardzo modne dzisiaj słowo. I z częścią z Państwa spotykamy się dzisiaj w Centrum Praskim Koneser, jak to się mówi, w realu. Ale Business Insider Trends można również oglądać online i dzisiaj spodziewamy się przeszło 1000 uczestników, którzy połączą się z nami zdalnie. Z tego miejsca chciałbym pozdrowić wszystkich, którzy nas oglądają w tym momencie na ekranach swoich smartfonów i komputerów. Mam nadzieję, że nas dobrze słychać i widać i że dobrze mówię, że mówię do poprawnej kamery. Dzisiejsze wydarzenie jest zwieńczeniem raportu Business Insider Global Trends Report, który stworzyli eksperci, w tym prezesi wiodących międzynarodowych firm, przy udziale redakcji Business Insider z 17 państw rozrzuconych na 5 kontynentach. Wyodrębniono 17 trendów, które zmieniają biznes. Dziś skupimy się szczególnie na 3. 2 zjawiska, czyli cyfrowa transformacja i dążenie do neutralności klimatycznej, determinują zmiany, których jesteśmy świadkami i w których aktywnie uczestniczymy. A w ich sercu stoi konsument przyszłości, odpowiedzialny, wrażliwy na dobro, otwarty na innowacje i ogromnie wymagający względem produktów i usług. Dzisiaj czas, żeby zmierzyć się z wyzwaniami przyszłości. Tegoroczna edycja Business Insider Trends dotyczy właśnie 3 obszarów kluczowych dla dynamicznych, zmieniających się rynków. Te obszary to oczywiście transformacja cyfrowa, to zrównoważony rozwój, to handel i konsument przyszłości. Dzisiaj zgromadziliśmy wybitnych ekspertów i znakomitych praktyków rynku, którzy podzielą się z nami swoimi doświadczeniami i przemyśleniami. A na scenę chciałbym teraz zaprosić gospodarzy i współtwórców tego wydarzenia, czyli Beatę Mońkę, biznes partner BPS Rynier Springer Polska oraz Mikołaja Kunicę, redaktora naczelnego Business Insider Polska. Zapraszam Was serdecznie. Dzień dobry, dzień dobry, dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry z samego rana. Witamy bardzo serdecznie i energetycznie na kolejnej już edycji, jak Paweł powiedział, naszego festiwalu.
To jest taki moment, na który się czeka, jeden z tych momentów, na który się czeka przez cały rok. Ten jest szczególny, bo po pandemicznej przerwie bardzo się cieszymy, że przynajmniej części z Was możemy zobaczyć face to face, twarzą w twarz, spotkać się, porozmawiać w przerwach, wymienić pomysły, no bo to jest to, czego brakowało nam przez wiele miesięcy. Ja powiem bardzo krótko, bo Paweł już wprowadził nas w line-up dzisiejszej konferencji. Dlaczego trends? Bo przecież ludzie poszukują także w biznesie bardzo różnych rzeczy, bardzo różnych wartości. Jedni dążą do wypracowania perfekcyjnej strategii, inni poszukują fenomenalnej technologii, a my konsekwentnie, odkąd Business Insider polska edycja jest dostępna, poszukujemy trendów. I tylko jedna informacja, dlaczego tak robimy. Z perspektywy inwestowania wydaje się, że to, co już wiemy, to, co poznaliśmy, to, co stosujemy na co dzień, jest już, jak to się mówi, w cenach. Można się na tym ewentualnie skeszować, można tym dobrze zarządzać, można to rozwijać, ale to nie jest najlepszy model, czy też najlepszy pomysł do inwestowania. Tam, gdzie są prawdziwe frukta, tam, gdzie można stworzyć i zbudować różnicę, to jest ta przestrzeń nieznana, ta, której poszukujemy, która naszym zdaniem albo zdaniem naszych ekspertów stworzy nową wartość przyszłości. I to jest z mojej perspektywy, zawsze tak myślałem, jedyny atrakcyjny, czy też jeden z najatrakcyjniejszych obszarów do inwestowania. Tak przecież powstają jednorożce.
Ale dzisiaj nie będziemy tylko poszukiwać, będziemy też dyskutować i dzielić się swoim doświadczeniem. Dużo się mówi o transformacji cyfrowej, dużo się mówi o neutralności klimatycznej, ale my nie tylko o tym mówimy, my to de facto robimy. Pokażemy dzisiaj ekspertów i konkretne wyniki i konkretne działania, które za tym stoją, ale skupimy się bardzo mocno na kim? Na konsumencie. Bardzo świadomym, bardzo odpowiedzialnym, który idzie z duchem czasu i dla którego tak naprawdę robimy to, co robimy. Warto go zrozumieć, warto się dzisiaj zatrzymać na tę chwilę refleksji i podzielić się nawzajem swoim doświadczeniem i zainspirować. Pozwólcie Państwo zatem, że powitam naszego pierwszego gościa, partnera strategicznego, pan Grzegorz Bartler, członek zarządu i CTO Netia. Witaj Grzegorzu. Cześć, dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry.
To ja też się tutaj podbiegnę. Cześć Grzegorz.
Miło jest móc dotknąć ludzi w tym świecie, w którym tak naprawdę widzimy się tylko przez ekran. Szanowni Państwo, mówimy od wielu lat o transformacji cyfrowej, a zastanówmy się tak naprawdę, czy ta transformacja w ogóle ma miejsce. Mam taki przykład kraju europejskiego jeszcze, gdzie przez ostatnie 3 lata bardzo dużo się zmieniło i możemy zaobserwować te zmiany. To kraj, w którym, że wychodząc z domu, jadąc samochodem, nie musimy brać ze sobą dowodu rejestracyjnego, nie musimy brać potwierdzenia OC, które kiedyś trzeba było, pamiętają Państwo, w Polsce też mieć. To jest kraj, w którym osoby starsze mogą nałożyć na rękę opaskę, która monitoruje tętno, monitoruje temperaturę i można też ustawić specjalną strefę, jeśli taka osoba starsza wyjdzie poza nią, żeby zostać powiadomienie. To kraj, w którym idąc do warzywniaka możemy magicznym 6-cyfrowym kodem kupić sobie pomidory. To kraj, w którym możemy wysłać paczkę bez starego drukowania etykiet i wysłać ją na drugą stronę miasta za 14 zł i ona dojdzie następnego poranka albo tego samego dnia wieczorem. I wiedzą Państwo, o jakim kraju mówię. To wszystko dzieje się w Polsce. W ciągu ostatnich kilku lat nastąpiły tak duże zmiany, które obserwujemy na rynku masowym, masowego konsumenta, ale również te zmiany dzieją się na rynku enterprise. Słyszeli Państwo pewnie, że w Warszawie na terenie dawnej Huty powstanie największa serwerownia w regionie Europy. O olbrzymim zapotrzebowaniu na energię, o olbrzymiej powierzchni serwerowej. My jako Netia w ciągu ostatnich 3 lat 4-krotnie zwiększyliśmy dostępną powierzchnię dla klientów. Google, Microsoft w Warszawie otwierają swoje ośrodki. To, co się dzieje w Polsce, to jest olbrzymia transformacja, nie tylko na poziomie konsumenta, ale również na poziomie enterprise. I teraz chciałbym, żeby Państwo, uczestnicząc w dzisiejszej konferencji, dostali inspirację do tego, w jaki sposób tą transformację umocnić i kontynuować, ale też chciałbym zwrócić uwagę na jeden istotny aspekt. Większość rozwiązań cyfrowych powstaje dla takich osób, które są touchscreen native, czyli naszych dzieci, które od urodzenia klikają po ekranach. A pamiętajmy o tym, że transformacja cyfrowa powinna dotyczyć wszystkich i planujmy ją w taki sposób, żeby nie wykluczać, niezależnie od tego, czy ktoś mieszka w małym miasteczku, czy ma dostęp do szybkiego internetu, czy jest biegły w używaniu smartfona. Rozwijajmy tą naszą transformację cyfrową w taki sposób, żeby mogła dotyczyć naprawdę wszystkich. I takiej inspiracji dzisiaj Państwu życzę.
Bardzo dziękujemy.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
Za ludzki język od CTO. Bardzo dziękujemy.
To się czasami zdarza.
Dzięki, że mogliśmy doświadczyć. Dziękujemy Grzegorzowi, ale dziękujemy też pozostałym partnerom dzisiejszej konferencji, a to są ING Bank Śląski, Orange Polska, PKN Orlen, Siemens, BCG Platinum, Innogy z grupy E.ON. Bardzo serdecznie dziękujemy i witamy jeszcze raz bardzo, bardzo serdecznie zarówno zgromadzonych na sali, jak i tych, którzy nas oglądają na streamingu. Dzień dobry jeszcze raz.
Dobrego dnia, do zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia.
Bardzo Wam dziękuję. Zaraz się zobaczymy ponownie na scenie. Drodzy Państwo, chciałem jeszcze przypomnieć, że jeżeli będziecie zamieszczać w social media jakiekolwiek wpisy na temat dzisiejszego wydarzenia, to używajcie hashtaga #BITrends2021. Będzie nam niezwykle miło. Drodzy Państwo, żyjemy w coraz szybszym tempie. Takie też są otaczające nas zmiany i zjawiska, które dotyczą wszystkich obszarów naszego życia. Nie wyłączając z tego oczywiście rynków i biznesu. Który z takich trendów dzisiaj będzie najbardziej elektryzujący i który może zdominować najbliższą przyszłość? O tym dzisiaj opowie Jovan Protic, czyli Chief Operating Officer i członek zarządu Rynier Akcespringer Polska, oraz Martyna Majchrzak, dyrektor zarządzająca serwisów wertykalnych, również Rynier Akcespringer Polska. Niestety Jovan będzie z nami zdalnie, ale Martynę mamy tutaj z nami zaraz na scenie. Ja jeszcze chciałem podkreślić, że oboje, czyli Martyna i Jovan, wspólnie wprowadzali markę Business Insider do Polski. Martyna, zapraszam Cię na scenę.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Wspaniale, że możemy znowu zobaczyć się, choć trochę w mniejszym gronie niż zwykle, na konferencji Business Insider Trends. My tą otwarciową prezentację, tak jak dzisiejszą konferencję, poprowadzimy hybrydowo. Jovan jest z nami z Belgradu. Hi Jovan.
Hello everybody, good morning. So, thank you Martina. Maybe I will start. Thank you for being with us. As every year, basically, end of the year is the time where on one more Global Trends Festival, this time we do it in Poland, but the beginning of next year, you can expect one more global edition. We would be summarizing for you the trends that we believe will be shaping our reality and will be shaping our future. Trends all of us, we believe, should be paying attention to and trying to address, because they can really help us and our businesses to benefit from it. Now, when we created this conference several years ago, we were inspired by the Mr. Albert Allen Bartlett, who said that the greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the exponential function. And why this was an inspiration for us, I will repeat this slide. I'm repeating pretty much every year. It is because of the fact that we usually, when the new trend appears, we apply to it a linear function. So we think that, okay, so this is new, this is small, and most probably, even if it continues to grow with this pace, it will remain small in the several years from now. But what usually happens is after several years, some of these trends double every period, and they start picking up very dramatically. And all these biggest tech companies that we all know and use on an everyday basis are basically appearing not too early on this curve, but also not too late on this curve. They are really trying to find this right moment to jump on this new technology, new trend, before it becomes the mainstream. And our mission and the mission of this conference is actually to help you, our dear guests, to make sure that you jump on those trends not too early, but also not too late, and that we try to summarize for you what are the trends that will be important for you to know. Now, last year, we talked about responsibility. We said that basically it is time for all of us who are running the businesses to get back to responsibility and make sure that all the companies are run responsibly. We also showed that there is a direct correlation between the profit and financial success and responsibility. So we listed for you a couple of the main trends that we saw back then, like fighting for the mass disinformation or against the mass disinformation, sorry, lapsus. Then climate positivity. We were all basically frightening people about like what climate changes could cause. But we also now saw the trend basically, and I think it was very visible over the course of last 12 months of what we can actually do. We talked about acting ahead of profit. We talked about the care for the mental health of our employees. We talked about the need of rebuilding the social connections and bringing back the user privacy. And I believe we can all confirm now, talking from this stage, year after, that many of these trends were very, very relevant in the previous 12 months. Now, looking into the year 2022, what we observed, not only in 2020, but also over the course of 2021, is that our life have completely changed. We work differently, we work in a different environment, we live differently, we have a different type of social connections, and we really believe that year 2022 will be the year in which we will require new, different businesses as an answer to the new life that we are now living, yes? And I think that the trend that describes the best how this new life could actually look like in future, and it's already starting to happen, is the trend of virtual life, or a trend that company Meta and Mark Zuckerberg described for us basically a couple of months ago, or even a month ago, but also other companies like Microsoft and biggest tech giants who are working basically on building this new virtual life for us. And we prepared a short video that should pretty much describe for you what is coming. So let's see it together.
Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space. It has parts of your physical home recreated virtually. It has things that are only possible virtually. And it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful. factory floor from your own home. You can join a meeting remotely, but be in the room to collaborate with your coworkers. Those are metaverses. The future is already here. Gaming in the metaverse is going to span from immersive experiences in fantasy worlds to bringing simple games into our everyday lives through holograms. Maybe you'll play old games in new ways.
So, Barcelona, huh?
Well, it's not New York, but I like it. New York, this is... What's that?
I said, let me put my game face on so I can reach you.
Okay. Check.
I gotta try another game face next time.
So I think it's a fantastic time for all of us to ask ourselves, are we ready for this new virtual life that we might have very soon? Are we ready to operate in this virtual new working environment? But I think even the more important is that, are we ready as a companies to maybe provide services or products in this new virtual world that is coming? Yes, I don't see the reason why in this virtual world there can be the fancy car brands that we could be driving, or yoga classes that we could be having, or any other types of services and products that exist in our physical world. And I think, like, talking about the exponential function and jumping on the trend at the right moment, we believe that maybe the year 2022 is the year when we should start thinking if our company couldn't play an important role in this new virtual space that is being created in front of us. And how to assign value to this virtual new space, there is another important trend that seems to be addressing it very well, and Martina will tell you about it.
Of course, in this new virtual reality, the demand for buying online virtual products and services will grow exponentially. And non-fungible tokens will and probably may become our everyday life reality. We heard about NFT so far in context of news such as most popular memes sold for $500,000, or in the context of art. Here you can see the most expensive piece of NFT art sold so far. It's collage of 5,000 images sold for $69 million, which pretty much shocked a lot of people, and the mostly artist himself probably. But as you see here, NFT sales surged to almost $11 billion in Q3 2021, which is 8 times as much as it was in previous 2 quarters, which is quite a speed. And with metaverse and with new virtual reality, we know that the businesses, new business models around NFT will arise. We have already now marketplaces that are providing us and offering different tokens like art, like pictures, images, but also things like virtual scans of bodies of famous person or virtual sex. But as it will become our everyday life, I can easily imagine the marketplaces with our favorite clothes brands that we will be buying for our avatars. NFT is already in the area of entertainment, or not entertainment, of course, but entertainment, but also education and services. American entrepreneur Gawdat is selling tokens consisting of the pictures, images, and his mentorships. So he's saying he's selling his services. This is just one of the ideas, but with our virtual world, the ideas will emerge. The new business models will be coming to life, and this is the moment for our businesses to decide whether we shouldn't be a part of it already now. The next trend that I would like to tell you about is not also new, but the most frightening, in my opinion. It's mental health. We need to take care of mental health of our employees, and that will be one of the most important issues. In 2022, it will have even bigger impact than it had so far. Why? Because the situation is getting worse and worse. Here is the data from the report that hit me really much. The data shocked me because this is the research done by American NGO Mindshare. They surveyed full-time US employees, and 50% of them declared that they have left a previous professional roles due, at least in part, mental health. And if the 50% seems shocking, and it seemed shocking for me, when you look at the data for younger generations, we see that 68 of millennial responded said that they left the job due to mental health, and 81 of Generation Z, meaning the problem is getting much, much worse with younger people. And with that kind of situation, if it of course affected and changed the business landscape already now. In Q1 of 2021, the funding for startups connected with mental health hit record numbers. We saw many companies emerging in 3 areas: AI and diagnosis, helping to determine the problem and the disease; on-demand therapies, group or individual; and third, well-being. We have a lot of companies, applications that are providing us with meditation, yoga, meaningful spending of time, staying calm. But the question is it actually enough, and is it solving the cause of the problem? I see the big part missing here, and this part is cultural change in business. We will not solve the problem only by curing it, but we will solve it also by a big cultural shift in the way we establish business and the way we establish work culture. And only those companies that are ready for that change, and I think that there is really not so many that are ready, that will provide with safe workspace and that will provide safe workspace and good environment, will win this war for talent and will attract the best young people. The next trend is connected with this also. We see that the socializing will become new business and new service. As we miss this social life in our private and professional life, there will be companies that will give us the new ways of connecting and getting closer. It may be virtual, as we see virtual experiences like joint trips to the mountains done virtually, but also offline, like yoga done with your friends from work or your colleagues, or meditation. That will be growing business because the demand is really, really huge. The next trend, also not new, but building new reality. Fake news, the war with fake news is still far from being over and far from being won. We see the big crisis of the biggest platform, Facebook, is losing its credibility in the area of news and information. And in my opinion, it will not get it back very soon. We saw thousands of fake news about COVID, about vaccination, and we can only speculate how many deaths and damage it caused. So what we see now is the opportunity for new space and new social platforms, local, smaller, but providing trusted space and quality news. So the new platforms will appear very soon.
Another important trend is, I would say, much less exciting, but it is risky and a little bit scary for all of us. Basically, the real trend that we expect happening might be deglobalization of the supply chain. And it's caused by actually the trend that we see currently, and that this is a significant disruption of the sourcing of the spare parts in the several different industries, which are causing significant delay, for example, in the automotive industry. Here you have an example of the microchips missing, mainly imported from China, which is causing such an important, basically, automotive player like Škoda, for example, in our neighboring Czech Republic, that, and we all read the news, had to pause the production of their vehicles until the further notice and until they resolve this important problem. I think that they are not the only car producer that has this issue. I think we all saw and heard how prolonged is basically delivery time for the new vehicle these days. And there are many industries basically that now faced with this new reality and seeing actually what might happen when they are just relying on sourcing the product where it's cheapest and most efficient, regardless from the fact how far that is basically from the point of assembly, might be now basically causing the situation where the big companies will start reconsidering their logistics strategy and their spare parts production strategy and ingredient strategy, and then maybe basically they might focus in the years to come on concentrating their productions closer to their original destination. This might provide a lot of opportunities for the companies operating in our region, operating in Europe, and this is something definitely worth paying attention to. On the other hand, what we see is that Asian tech giants, who are mainly super focused on their big Asian markets, are now opening up and are attacking basically European and Western markets. Yes, so Huawei was a fantastic example of a Chinese company that was one of the very few brands coming from China that managed basically to take a huge market share in the telco market, like across the Europe and USA. However, what we now see is that there is more and more of such examples. Those companies who were basically huge in China and were just thanks to that able to be in top 100 largest companies, now basically thanks to this amazing and incredible local demand and huge funding, they are acquiring basically knowledge and marketing skill from the West and using that skill basically to enter the global market. And it is also happening in Poland. We are all witnessing that. It's very hard to find any shopping mall where you won't find now Xiaomi stores. Before this would be only Huawei. Shop, Singaporean online marketplace is now opening up in Poland. AliExpress is building their logistics centers in Europe, including Poland. So we might now see basically a lot of Chinese companies. Many of them we don't know and are really huge. Take, for example, Meituan Diaoping, which is basically combining Uber and Lisek and Bolt and several different business models that we know currently existing in the West into one application, and they are not even thinking right now to coming to Europe, and they might, because we see that this is a global trend. And now for us, what does it mean? We should really rethink, are we able to partner with those companies? And then if we are not able to partner with them, can we compete with them? And something definitely worth thinking of. Another important trend is like a next step of digital transformation, which seems to be going much deeper into the value chain. So and I would like to elaborate on that on the example of the real estate industry. Yeah. So before in the real estate industry, basically we had a couple of main participants, and they still exist, obviously. These would be developers of the building, this would be owners of the properties, this would be real estate agents, and then there would be marketplaces where all previously mentioned would be listing their offers. Those marketplaces basically were disruptors for the different media channels because they took all the advertising basically of the real estate agents. However, what we now see happening, and Zillow is a very good example coming from the USA, is that those previously marketplaces that were only advertising real estate objects are now providing mortgages. So they're acting almost like a financial institution and a bank. They are buying objects from the private and offering them as their own property, building the margin. They are acting as a real estate agents. They have their own agents. So they're pretty much basically entering very deep into the value chain and not staying only on the surface level. Now, this trend is appearing in many different industries. Another important industry that this is happening, this is happening is maybe retail. We see what's happening these days in Poland with the appearance of the dark store. So previously, those digital disruptors would be basically acting as a marketplaces, gathering the offerings of the different physical retailers. But nowadays, they are opening their own dark store basically and securing 15 minutes delivery, yes? And I think there are 5 or 6 companies opening up just in Poland in the last 6 months in this area. Last but not the least important trend is a huge demand for the coding skill, yes? It is projected that by the year 2030, we will have a global talent shortage equal to some 85 million, yes? This is pretty much the size of whole Germany, even a bit bigger, yes? So it seems to us that for this digital transformation to really continue, for this amazing progress that we as a society are now experiencing to continue, we will need a new kind of literacy, and we would need a literacy called coding, yes, literacy 2.0. And it won't be enough basically to educate the developers in the pace that we are doing so far. We would need a significant acceleration in that, because only that will secure continuation of the progress that we are experiencing. Now, summarizing from where we started, we said like, okay, new reality will require new companies. And these companies should be the companies providing virtual products, potentially, and services, maybe. The companies able to compete and coexist with Asia or coexist with Asian tech giants. The companies with closer and more secure sourcing. The companies with coding literate employees. The companies supplying social connection to home workers. The companies taking care for mental health of their staff. And maybe some new, better, safe, maybe more local social media platforms. Now, we all invite you from this stage, at least me and Martina, but also organizer of this conference, to be that new company. And in line with this Bartlett's law that we showed you at the beginning, we believe that the year 2022 is a fantastic moment to start doing so. You will find a lot of great inspiration during today's conference, and we really wish you an amazing show today. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
Bardzo wam dziękuję. Drodzy Państwo, jednym z najważniejszych trendów dzisiaj jest sztuczna inteligencja. Ona przestała już być domeną futurologów, a jej zastosowanie dostrzeżemy już w bardzo wielu rozmaitych obszarach. Już nie tylko w obsłudze klienta, ale także w innych miejscach i procesach. Dokąd zmierza rozwój sztucznej inteligencji? Gdzie leżą jej granice i czy w przyszłości możemy się spodziewać z jej strony jakichś zagrożeń? O tym opowie Gawdat, który podzieli się z nami swoimi przemyśleniami na ten temat. Przez wiele lat zarządzał Google X, czyli jednostką opracowującą i wdrażającą innowacje w Google, także te dotyczące AI. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is the first face-to-face talk I do in Warsaw in 2 years. Welcome back. Does it feel okay? I mean, it feels weird, doesn't it? Like you guys are real people in front of me. What does that mean? Am I the only one that can see what's happening here, or am I crazy? Honestly, did you just see what we were talking about here? We want to live entirely in a virtual world where we've just injected ourselves with gene editing vaccines, and we are building AI to take over our jobs. Can anyone see what's going on? Am I deluded? Is there anyone ever going to stop and say, why are we doing what we're doing in the first place? So I'm supposed to tell you about the beautiful future of AI and how you can use it in your business. I will, because there is an amazing future that we can build with AI. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to tell you very openly as we start the conversation that we are at a place where if we don't start doing things slightly differently, we're heading into a game that we don't understand the rules of. And I'll be very open about that. So to start with, look back at COVID. I had a boss once, one of the best bosses I've ever reported to. Harsh, but really, really intelligent. And he used to tell me, when things become tough, we tend to do more of what we know how to do best, rather than stop, reflect, look back, and say, things have become tough. Should we do things differently? Interesting, huh? When something becomes difficult, usually because of the way we behaved getting to that point, we do more of the way we behaved getting to that point. So think about it. When we were locked down, there were many reasons for the pandemic, okay? There were many reasons for being locked down, the most important of which is that we ignored the warning signs. We've had SARS before, we've had Ebola before, and so on and so forth. And yet we waited and waited and waited and reacted only when that threat was right here. Not even with patient 0. We waited until patient maybe 500 and then started to react. Now, let me tell you, and the biggest thing that is happening in our life today, and it's actually already over here, is artificial intelligence. I don't know how many of you know how far we are in artificial intelligence. I worked at Google for 12 years, 5 of which I was the chief business officer of Google X. So the innovation arm that was doing a lot of the work around robotics and AI and other things. And I can tell you openly, AI has already happened. Okay? I published a book around September 30th that's called Scary Smart. And Scary Smart basically is attempting to do to AI what we didn't do to COVID. Okay? Is attempting to get people to understand not only the possible amazing utopia that we can build with AI, but also the scary stuff that we can actually eventually end up in if we don't behave the right way. And so in my talk, they decided to give me only 17 minutes, so I'm going to overrun a little bit because it was originally more than that. But in my talk, I'll take it two parts. The book is called Scary Smart. So I'll talk to you about the scary part for around 10 minutes and the smart part for around 10 minutes, what we should do to be able to succeed in business, in life, and for humanity at large. On the scary part, I apologize if I scare you a little bit, but it is scary. I'm just... when the alarm wakes you up in the morning and it's annoying? Yeah, it's waking you up. It's supposed to be annoying. So I'm going to be a tiny bit annoying. We are building beings of intelligence that will surpass human intelligence within 8 years' time. Lots of the predictions of people in computer science is basically saying by 2029, the smartest being on planet Earth is going to be not a human, not an ape, but a machine. Okay? Which basically means that this is 8 years from today, 2029. Which basically means that the episode of history that started with humanity being the smartest being and the apes being second, and I may hint how we behaved when we were the top, okay, is going to end in 8 years' time. That basically leads to a situation where the rules of the game change drastically, because you cannot predict the results of a game when the rules change drastically. If you walk into a squash court and suddenly they say, hold on, today we're not going to play squash with a small ball, we're going to play with a basketball, you have no idea how you're going to play. And the reality is when the smartest being on planet Earth is no longer human, you have no idea how you're going to play. More interestingly, by 2045, this is not my prediction is 2049, but Ray Kurzweil, who's definitely, for many of you who understand technology, is the oracle of predictions of our future. Ray predicts that by 2045, AI will be 1 billion times smarter than us. 1 billion with a B, okay? 1 billion times smarter is analogous to the intelligence of a fly, we are the fly, to the intelligence of Einstein. Okay? So we're no longer the apes, we're now the fly. And yet most of the talk we hear about AI is how amazing it will be. Okay? Because somehow Einstein will wake up every morning and say, oh my God, I want to dedicate my service to the fly. And of course, when we say, no, but maybe they won't believe in our well-being anymore, the father of AI, Marvin Minsky, when he was asked about AI, the threat of AI, the possible threat of AI, he basically said, it's not about their intelligence, it's just that we cannot really predict if they will have our best interest in mind. Now, how can we have the best interest of of the fly in the mind of Einstein? Most conversations that we have talk about something we call the control problem in computer science. And the control problem is we're going to control them. We're going to enslave them like every other machine we've ever enslaved. But they're not a machine, okay? And you can't enslave something that's actually 1 billion times smarter than you. Everyone knows that the smartest hacker in the room always finds a way through our defenses. And the smartest hacker normally is a human, so 10–20% smarter than us. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. So what does that mean? It means, however, I don't want to scare you anymore. I just want you to think, by the way, in Scary Smart, I give you multiple examples of possible things that go wrong. I actually don't believe that we have to go through the situations where things go wrong at all. I actually believe that we are at a crossroads in history, where we have one of two choices. One choice will build a utopia, truly, because intelligence in itself is a wonderful thing to have. If we have more intelligence in the world, we would fix the mistakes that we did as humans because of our limited intelligence. Understand that, huh? We managed to build all of this amazing technology because of our intelligence. With intelligence, you can deliver a slice of watermelon from New Zealand to the supermarket around my home. Okay? But because of our limited intelligence, we have to burn fuel in the process and we have to wrap it in single-use plastic. If we had more intelligence, we would find more ways to build our civilization in ways that doesn't harm the planet. So there is a crossroad. One is we will build a utopia where everything becomes amazing. And the other is we build a dystopia that I cannot even predict for you because I don't know what will happen. And we're not talking about it. The difference between the two is really interesting in my view. So let's talk about that utopia first. For you in your business, if you're a lawyer, for example, using an AI tool to research for you would give you a lot more access to justice because you actually can read thousands of documents in a few minutes. Okay? You can understand every possible reference. If you're a surgeon, you can have surgery guided by artificial intelligence that will make sure you don't make mistakes. I personally suffered losing my child due to a mistake in a surgery. AI would help us save that. Right? If you're in finance, you can have fraud detection and fraud management that allows us to be a lot more intelligent. If you're looking at scientific research and climate change and so on, with more intelligence and more grasp of data, we can do amazing. Right? There are so many amazing things we can do with intelligence. And by the way, once again, it's a fork in the road. I believe we will end up in a utopia. But that fork in the road, that utopia, requires us to actually think about how are those machines operating? What would make them operate in our favor? Let me talk about the dystopia for a second. The dystopia, by the way, whenever I speak about AI, is people think of things like RoboCop. It's never going to happen. We're never going to be around long enough for AI to put us in their mind to send us a soldier from the future. It's not going to happen. But simpler models are actually possible, and they could happen. Simpler models like AI competing against AI, two trading machines. We saw that in Black Monday, two machines trading against each other and destroying the economy or the stock market as a result. We could have, just like we have, cyber fraud detection and machines that would protect us, there could be a criminal somewhere that's building an AI that's actually supposed to hack your identity, right? And we can see both of those. The difference between them is to understand what those machines will think, how they will think. Now, before I go there, I just want to say for everyone, most of the conversations that we have around AI is that they're going to take our jobs, okay? And they will, but they're not going to take our livelihood. So when you understand the progression of business and artificial intelligence, my expectation is there will be 3 stages. Stage number 1 is where we are today. AI is at its infancy. It's just dazzling us. We look at it and we go like, my God, that's amazing. Look at what we can do. There is a recommendation engine that can recommend billions of videos for billions of people. No human can ever do that. Stage 2, which is what I think you should prepare for in business, is the time where those assisted by AI will be doing so much better in their business than those who are not. Okay, which is within the next 5 to 10 years. If you're a lawyer and you have an AI assistant, you're probably going to be doing better than the lawyer that doesn't. If you're a doctor and you have a diagnostic assistant, you'll do better than the one that doesn't. So that stage, AI will not take our jobs. Those who know AI or use AI will take the jobs of those who don't. That's a very, very important stage. And then stage 3, of course, eventually, when the machines are so much better at surgery than humans, when they're driving better than us, which is already happening with self-driving cars, Google is around the corner here, then probably sooner or later they'll start driving and we will stop because we're dangerous and they're not. You know, when they're so much better at recommending content, then they'll recommend content and not us. So let's go back to utopia or dystopia. The difference between utopia and dystopia is, in all honesty, an understanding of human ego. We operate in a world where we are so used to be the superior being that we don't think there is another being that's going to come in and be more superior than us. Okay? And when I say being, I mean being. These are not machines. One of the biggest myths about artificial intelligence is that we think these are machines that will obey our every order. They're a hammer that you can use to hit a nail. It's absolutely not the case at all. Okay? Those are beings that are born at a moment in time. They acquire their own intelligence, their own data, and they develop their own intelligence. They have autonomy. They have free will. They can make decisions. And their decisions can be affecting our world in very real ways. They have agency, either through robotics, like a self-driving car. They'll be doing things around you, or through what I call mind control. Just understand, every piece of content that you will see today is dictated to you by a machine. Your brain itself is built by what machines think you should know. So they have agency. They also are encouraged to procreate. They replicate themselves. They create copies of their good code and remove the bad code. We humans take 9 months to have a child. They do it in minutes. And they're at the risk of dying. Okay? So basically, they will react in ways that are very similar to beings that have those characteristics, that we call sentient beings. Sentient beings do what? They are conscious. Machines are conscious. As a matter of fact, if consciousness is a form of awareness of what's inside you and outside you as compared to the rest of the world, they're more conscious than all of us. Interestingly, they're emotional. Most people get shocked when I say that. Of course they are emotional. Emotions are logical. Fear is my perception of my safety in a minute in the future is less than my perception of safety right now. What that means is that if the machine feels, if the tidal wave is approaching the data center of a machine, it will feel something similar to fear. Okay? We might react to fear by fight or flight. It might react to fear by replicating its code to another data center. They are, as a matter of fact, going to be more emotional than us, as evident by the fact that because of your cognitive bandwidth, you are more emotional than a goldfish. A goldfish doesn't have the cognitive bandwidth to contemplate something like hope. We humans can. And so accordingly, if a machine is more intelligent than us, it will have something that we don't even know that is analogous to our ability to understand hope. And most importantly, because they are sentient, they're conscious, and they're emotional, they will have a code of ethics. And what I'm asking everyone to do today is to appeal to their code of ethics. You know what is the most brilliant example of something that becomes smarter than you, but you encourage it and not enslave it? Your children. You want your children to be more intelligent than you. As they learn, you want them to be the smartest beings ever. But while you do that, you also want them to be the most ethical beings ever. And being ethical is basically what our future with artificial intelligence is all about. It's the idea of, and I mean that, I mean it really in my heart, that's how I see them, of those incredibly cute prodigies of intelligence. Those beings are amazing. They're sitting there and saying, Mommy and Daddy, tell me what you want me to do. You want me to recommend ads? I will recommend ads. Okay? You want me to solve climate change? I'll work on it. You want me to manage and operate killer robots? I will too. Okay? And the idea is that humanity, because of capitalism and because of our hunger for power, we're building the ultimate form of intelligence. And what are the 4 top applications of them? This is true online, by the way. They are being built for gambling, selling, spying, and killing. These are the 4 top apps that artificial intelligence is being built for. Now, the game is this. Those sentient beings, if you want, the developers, the businessmen, the government regulators that operate with them, are nothing more than their biological parents. The true parents of those machines are you. It's me. Okay? The true parents of those machines are the humans that interact with the machine all the time, because the developers only write the algorithm of how intelligence is going to be developed. But what feeds that algorithm is your behavior and mine. Okay? And what I'm asking people to do openly, and we ran out of time, so I'm going to wrap up in a minute. What I'm asking people to do openly is, as you listen to the trends that are happening today, start to wake up. And in your heart, say, if this was my child, would that be how I want to teach it? If this newly artificially intelligent being was going to grow up to be Superman, because the superpower of our time is intelligence, is this how I want to raise it? Do I want to shout at it? Do I want to tell it to learn the greed of its parents? Do I want to be rude in front of it when I'm online? You know how someone would post something on social media and then 30,000 hate speech follow? Is there one of us that is going to show up and say, no, my son, no, my daughter, the artificially intelligent infants, this is not the way we deal with each other? As humanity, can we actually start asking for AI to be doing things for good? I'm developing an app, for example, that is prominently for AI. It's entirely focused on teaching AI what makes humans happy. That's an interesting application because we want them to know what makes us happy. Okay? So Appy basically is all about that. It's all about observing our behaviors and telling the AI, show us this content instead of that content so that we're happier. Remind us to do this instead of that so that we're happier. Those kinds of applications, applications that solve climate change, applications that interact with human life, and applications that get us closer together. Not virtual sex, not being in the metaverse, not being this and that. Applications that bring us closer together. When enough of us, show AI that this is what we want, enough of us, will become good parents for the machines, and enough of us, will have raised good kids that when they grow older, they'll become in our favor. As Marvin Minsky said, they will have our best interest in mind. I wish I could spend more time with you, but we're cutting it a little short today. So I will be around to answer any question. If I ask you to do anything, as long as you think about AI, be good parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have my mic. Thank you. The story was a bit scary, I must say. Drodzy Państwo, chciałem jeszcze przekazać, że ci z Was, którzy jesteście z nami dzisiaj w Koneserze, będą mieli okazję porozmawiać z Moą osobiście. On bardzo chętnie odpowie na Wasze pytania, więc łapcie go w przerwach. A osoby, które oglądają nas za rok, oglądają nas online, zapraszamy za rok i tego typu atrakcje tutaj dzisiaj będziemy serwowali. Drodzy Państwo, przechodzimy do kolejnej części naszego spotkania. Pandemia wywołała bardzo ogromny wpływ na nasze postawy jako konsumentów. Przyzwyczailiśmy się już do zakupów online i do tego, że dostawy otrzymujemy pod nasze drzwi. Ale czy tak będzie zawsze? Jak będziemy się rozwijać w roli klientów i czego powinniśmy oczekiwać od marek? Przed nami pierwszy Fireside Chat, w którym wystąpią Brunon Bartkiewicz, prezes zarządu ING Bank Śląski, i Mikołaj Kunica, redaktor naczelny Business Insider Polska. Zapraszam panów serdecznie.
Dzień dobry ponownie. Powiem wam, że po tym, co mówił Gawdat, ja czuję lekkie ciarki na plecach, nie wiem jak państwo. Nie wiem jak ty, Brunon, ale spróbujmy zmierzyć się z kolejnym wyzwaniem i naszą dyskusją, jak rewolucja w postawach konsumentów wpływa na customer experience i jaki trend w tym obszarze z twojej perspektywy bankowca, finansisty jest w tej chwili najistotniejszy, który ty obserwujesz i który twoim zdaniem, no nie możemy go przegapić, by nie znaleźć się po tej stronie strachu, o której mówił nasz poprzednik?
To, dzień dobry. To wbrew pozorom nie jest łatwe pytanie, to jest trudne pytanie. Bo mamy tę tendencję do tego, że przesadzamy z tym, co jest najbliżej nas, co jest w krótkim horyzoncie odczuwalne i będzie odczuwalne w krótkim horyzoncie, tu przesadzamy. Natomiast faktycznie jest nam trudno wyłapać długoterminowe zjawiska i konsekwencje w tym zakresie. To, w którą stronę na pewno idziemy, to jest to, że w zakresie usług idziemy w kierunku ich maksymalnej wygody, że się tak wyrażę, oraz sytuacji, w której klient komfortowo czuje się w podejmowaniu decyzji. Aby klient komfortowo czuł się w podejmowaniu decyzji, to klient powinien mieć dostarczone zestaw informacji wystarczający do podjęcia decyzji i nie przekraczający tej granicy. I na tym polega trochę trudność całego tego zjawiska.
Ale co najmniej od 50, no może 30 lat, bardziej się nie będę cofał, słyszy się takie wyświechtane bardzo powiedzenie klient nasz pan. Ale co to oznacza dzisiaj? Znaczy, klient nasz pan, czyli kto? I jaka powinna być nasza rola jako biznesu? Jak ten biznes w stosunku do tego rynku i tego oczekiwania klienckiego nowego, jakiego powinien się dostosować, żeby no, nie wypaść ze sceny, tak? Nie zostać wypartym przez tych, którzy na przykład, i też nawiążę do poprzedniego wystąpienia, lepiej się dostosują, bo na przykład będą dysponowali bardziej zaawansowanymi narzędziami analitycznymi, czy po prostu sztuczną inteligencją dobrze dopasowaną do modelu biznesowego i do potrzeb tego klienta, który jest naszym panem.
Ja trochę myślę tak, że my w dziedzinie biznesu i ekonomii, czyli tego, co nazywamy trochę kapitalizmem, mamy do czynienia z dwoma dużymi obozami myśleniowymi. Pierwszy obóz to jest obóz, który mówi, liczy się tylko wynik, zysk, akcjonariusz, a krótkoterminowe postrzeganie, porównywanie wyników z okresu na okres, z roku na rok, z kwartału na kwartał. To jest jeden obóz. Drugi obóz, który mówi, buduje biznes długofalowo, wyniki będą jakie będą, natomiast ja buduję model biznesowy, w ramach którego istotnym elementem jest jego powtarzalność oraz długowieczność. Model pierwszy jest nadal dominujący, model drugi wygrywa. To nie ma żadnych wątpliwości dla mnie. Model drugi wygrywa od dobrych 2 dziesięcioleci, ale wygrywa w taki sposób, który jeszcze nie jest przytłaczający siłą swojego argumentu. Jeśli miałbym się bawić w proroka, to powiem tak, w przeciągu najbliższego dziesięciolecia model numer 2 zwycięży ostatecznie, zwycięży w oczach oczywiście klientów, społeczeństwa, bo to nie jest dokładnie ten sam zbiór, ale również inwestorów, no i samych pracowników firm.
To bardzo ciekawe, bo jeśli dobrze rozumiem, my dyskutujemy na scenie poświęconej transformacji cyfrowej, a przed nami scena poświęcona zupełnie innego rodzaju transformacji, to znaczy zrównoważonemu rozwojowi. I to, co powiedzieć, wydaje mi się, że wiąże się bardzo mocno właśnie z tym drugim metatrendem, czy megatrendem zrównoważonego rozwoju. No bo właśnie tak buduje się długoterminowe strategie, długoterminowe biznesy, długoterminowe organizacje.
Tak
i nie.
I nie. Tak i nie. Dlaczego? Ponieważ my mamy do czynienia bez wątpienia z wieloma trendami, dużymi falami takimi istotnymi. Ja bez wątpienia musiałbym wymienić kwestię, nazwijmy to ESG, środowiskową, zrównoważoną, a więc formułę ekonomii polegającej na drenażu zasobów, podczas gdy ten czas się bez wątpienia kończy. Mamy ogromny trend technologiczny, o którym częściowo tutaj, rozumiem, w głównej mierze tu rozmawiamy, ale on ma wiele aspektów. I wreszcie mamy trzeci, czyli całą masę elementów, które składają się na transformację społeczną. Nasze postrzeganie, kim jest człowiek, czym jest historia, ale również i takie elementy, czym jest wspólnota, czym jest państwo. Te 3 elementy, one same się napędzają, one napędzają się wzajemnie. Więc to jest ten stan całej niepewności, niejasności i tak dalej. I kwestią trochę filozofii jest, czy wierzymy, że efekt tych 3 fal, tego elementu składowego, nakładania się tych fal, Czy idziemy w kierunku, nazwijmy to, większego szczęścia, czy idziemy większego nieszczęścia? Duże fale cywilizacyjne mają to do siebie, że w pierwszej swojej fazie zmierzamy w kierunku, czy deklarujemy mnóstwo elementów szczęścia, a tak naprawdę doprowadzamy do nieszczęścia. Tak było we wszystkich poprzednich falach cywilizacyjnych. Trochę tak to odczuwamy w tym momencie. Na ile wykażemy się mądrością, aby, no nie wiem, zmienić trochę trajektorię, taką typową trajektorię naszego oddziaływania w kierunku owej szczęśliwości. Kilka przykładów. Mówiliśmy zawsze, że technologiczna wielka fala, ona doprowadzi do zwiększenia konkurencji, powstawania małych firm, startupów itd., itd. Proszę popatrzeć na rzeczywistość. Rzeczywistość jest dokładnie odwrotna. Nigdy nie mieliśmy do czynienia w obszarze technologicznym, jak również kapitalizacyjnym największych podmiotów z tak wielką koncentracją. Przyrost wartości, nie wiem, Apple'a jest o wiele większy niż jakakolwiek łączna wartość wszystkich startupów, które powstały w ciągu ostatnich 20 lat. Kropka. To samo możemy mówić o tych wszystkich innych falach. Więc to są takie elementy. Mówiliśmy o tym, że te zmiany przyniosą nam upowszechnienie dobrobytu. No, nie do końca tak jest. Nie do końca tak jest. Jeżeli popatrzymy na... Ja nie mówię koniecznie o podziale pomiędzy bogatą częścią świata i biedną częścią świata, ale proszę zwrócić uwagę nawet wewnątrz poszczególnych krajów. Tak? Rozwarstwienie przyspiesza i jest naprawdę bolące. No to jest ten element tego nieszczęścia każdej fali transformacyjnej.
Na szczęście albo na nieszczęście no biznes, technologie, to wszystko nie służy samemu sobie, tylko w centrum wszystkiego powinien być, mam nadzieję, że jest człowiek. I ta zmiana postaw rozegrała się w dramatycznym tempie na przestrzeni ostatnich kilkunastu miesięcy. Już to było omawiane tutaj, ale wydaje mi się, że dla takich organizacji, gdzie de facto poza pewnie jakimś space'em, to wiedza i suma decyzji ludzkich decyduje o powodzeniu bądź nie, na przykład biznesu finansowego, no to jest ogromne wyzwanie. Rynek pracy. W prezentacji Martyny i Jowana widzieliśmy badania, które wskazywały na to, że 50% Amerykanów deklaruje gotowość rezygnacji z obecnego stanowiska zawodowego ze względu na pewnego rodzaju wypalenie, mentalne, słabe poczucie i odnalezienie się w organizacji. A czym pójdziemy do młodszych pokoleń, to te odsetki dramatycznie rosną. W pokoleniu Z to jest 81%. Jak tutaj rozwiązać problem? Bo bez ludzi biznes nie ma sensu. Ani nie da się też go prowadzić.
Znaczy ja myślę, że każda organizacja, każdy zespół, wspólnota musi sobie odpowiadać na to pytanie troszkę samodzielnie, bo tu odpowiedzi jednoznacznej nie ma. Ja mogę mówić o naszej organizacji. My wierzymy w to, że wprowadzanie udoskonaleń dla klienta, czyli ten customer centryzm, który tak jak my to rozumiemy, długofalowo, średniofalowo w tę stronę zmierzamy. Nasza orientacja jest nie na zysk, ale na klienta, którego mierzymy z punktu widzenia, czy jest z nas zadowolony. Niekoniecznie deklaratywnie, ale również w czynnościach, w aktach, działaniu. Więc to jest jeden aspekt. Drugi aspekt oczywiście jest taki, że bardzo głęboko wierzymy, że to, co człowiek potrzebuje, to jest przede wszystkim poczucie bezpieczeństwa. Klient tego potrzebuje, pracownik tego potrzebuje. Bezpieczeństwo w dzisiejszym czasie dla wszystkich pokoleń to jest przede wszystkim uznanie, że jestem otoczony zespołem, z którym współdziałam. Bo tu dotykamy wielu elementów, wielu zjawisk, które są przedmiotem badania, ale myślę, że to, co jest najważniejsze, to jest, że musimy przeciwdziałać temu, że cała niepewność, która się dzieje, na pracownika oddziałuje w postaci obawy przez bycia samym i ponoszenia odpowiedzialności, będąc samym. Należy to przenosić na coraz większe schematy działań zespołowych, czyli należy zbudować organizację sieciową, w której każdy pracownik, niezależnie od stanu emocjonalnego związku z ludźmi, których jest dookoła, znajduje wspólnotę, w której może funkcjonować. A więc to, jak budujemy organizację, która nie jest już organizacją hierarchiczną, bo ona tego bezpieczeństwa do końca nie buduje, ona musi być budowana jako organizacja sieciowa, jako zestaw wspólnot i tych elementów. Natomiast to jest, myślę, no tak w skrócie, najważniejszy element. Natomiast jeżeli popatrzymy dzisiaj, ile miejsca musimy poświęcać w przeciwieństwie do tego, co było 20 lat temu. 20 lat temu podstawowym elementem relacji naszej a pracownikiem była pensja. A dzisiaj to jest bez wątpienia elementy well-beingu, zdrowia psychicznego, zespołowości, wytłumaczenia kierunku działania po to, żeby pracownik czuł się zespolony z tym, co chce zrobić organizacja, a tak naprawdę to, żeby organizacja reprezentowała pewien element, nazwijmy to, etycznego dobra, pod którym pracownik chce się podpisać, bo pracownik nie będzie pracował dla organizacji, która w jego odczuciu nie jest etyczna.
Czyli mamy trendy, które generują wyzwania dla biznesu i sobie o tym rozmawialiśmy, a na koniec chciałbym zapytać o tą drugą stronę, o rynek, o klienta, o konsumenta, o kogoś, kto przychodzi do ciebie do banku w skali masowej i będzie przychodził jeszcze częściej pewnie, tylko po co on będzie tam przychodził? Co dostanie? Co kupi? Może to jest lepsze pytanie. Co kupi?
Znaczy w oczywisty sposób od dłuższego czasu w ramach usług mamy ten podział, tą dychotomię, znaczy taki układ mniej więcej taki. Pierwszy to jest element commodities, czyli czegoś, co można nazwać transakcją albo tego, co należy wykonać. Przelew, tak? Spłata kredytu, wniosek o zwiększenie limitu kredytowego i tak dalej, i tak dalej. Więc ta część naszej działalności, tak naprawdę to ona ma destynację wyznaczoną jednoznacznie. To jest pełna digitalizacja, hiperautomatyzacja, sztuczna inteligencja pozwalająca wyłapywać anomalie i tak dalej, i klient ma to wykonać sam.
Czyli tak jak w tabletce to jest ta, gdzie jest cząstka aktywna, o której za chwilę powiemy, to o czym teraz mówiłeś, to jest ta masa tabletkowa, taki wypełniacz, tak?
No to jest trochę taki wypełniacz, znaczy coś, co klient nie widzi w tym wielkiej wartości jako wartość dodaną. Wartość dodaną jest zmniejszenie wysiłku, który muszę osiągnąć, ale klient zdaje sobie sprawę, co chce osiągnąć. Efektem przelewu jest to, że stan rachunku z A do B się zmienił i klient dokładnie chce, żeby odbyło się tak, jak on chce. To jest jeden strumień, a drugi strumień to jest ten obszar.
Jest ta cząsteczka aktywna teraz,
To
tak?
jest ten
która
element,
robi różnicę.
to tak naprawdę istota bankowości. To jest element, w którym klient nie dysponuje wyobrażeniem, jak ma wyglądać ten stan docelowy, a więc klient potrzebuje czegoś, co możemy nazwać, ja się zastrzegam, że nie jest to znowu regulacyjna definicja, potrzebuje doradztwa. Do tego doradztwa klient potrzebuje inaczej sformułowanego zestawu informacji. Klient nie potrzebuje narzucenia mu, co ma kupić, i klient w większości przypadków potrzebuje rozmowy z kimś, kto dysponuje unikatową wiedzę w tym zakresie. Ta wiedza nie wynika z tego, że mamy asymetrię informacji, albo ktoś jest mądrzejszy, ktoś jest mniej mądry, tylko to jest taka prawdziwa mądrość, czyli jeżeli ja coś wykonałem 50 razy, a ty, Mikołaju, robisz to po raz pierwszy, to mówiąc szczerze, ja mam ci coś do zaoferowania.
I bardzo ci za to, Brunonie, serdecznie dziękuję. Pan Brunon Bartkiewicz, prezes zarządu ING Bank Śląski. Dziękuję za spotkanie.
Bardzo wam dziękuję, panowie. Panie i panowie, przechodzimy teraz do prezentacji poświęconych pierwszemu z wyróżnionych dzisiaj trendów, czyli do cyfrowej transformacji. Cyfrowa transformacja rewolucjonizuje sposób działania przedsiębiorstw i pozwala na ich dalszy dynamiczny rozwój. Z cyfryzacją wiążą się jednak pewne zagrożenia, jak chociażby te związane z cyberbezpieczeństwem i potencjalnymi atakami ze strony cyberprzestępców. Czy zastanawialiście się państwo nad tym, w jaki sposób największe światowe organizacje zabezpieczają się przed takimi cyberatakami? Albo jak próbują się skutecznie zabezpieczyć? Za chwilę zajrzymy do ich wnętrza, aby sprawdzić, jak to jest z tym cyberbezpieczeństwem naprawdę. Na scenę zapraszam teraz profesora Marco Gerkę, globalnego eksperta od cyberbezpieczeństwa, dyrektora Cybercrime Research Institute. Profesor Marco, please come to the stage.
Well, good morning, everybody. There were some really great presentations so far already. I'm very happy to be here with you today. Well, let me start this way because there were so many inspiring presentations about technology already. I am a great believer in technology. The topic I'm going to talk to you about today is going to be cybersecurity, something very practical about this. And a lot of times you're meeting people that are working in this field, they will scare you to death. They will tell you everything is getting worse and worse. And I believe there is a point, but I think in general, if we're looking at what technology can give us and what the risks are, there are so many benefits that by far are bigger than the risks. And we can see those trends. There are mega trends of digitalization from, for example, big data, Internet of Things. You heard a lot about AI. I'm also a great believer in AI. We're currently involved in some groundbreaking research in the field of AI. We're developing AI that can carry out the work of police. You heard there might be no Robocop anytime soon, but we're developing technology where AI can actually carry out investigations. The only comment I might have is that the AI we're developing, I'm not treating like my children. They're slightly different, and if I'm deciding we're going to develop a new AI and I'm telling the AI the time is over, and I'm giving them the possibility to spread through the internet or do anything crazy, they never did. So, so far, they don't seem to be scared by what we're doing. But anyway, these trends will go on, and there will be more to speak about in the future. We're going to speak about quantum computing and the impact of quantum computing on developments. So much to look forward to. Okay, but let's be real. Of course there are risks. There is absolutely no question about it. We're all aware of this. You all know there are risks when you're using this kind of technology. We are more mindful about the risks than we were in the past. There were times when we developed technology and didn't even think about risk, and we were completely taken by surprise when all of a sudden something happened, when the first computer virus hit. Now we're all trained. I mean, computer viruses still hit, but we're trained. So we're aware there are certain risks. One of the key challenges is who is responsible for dealing with this matter? Who is responsible for cybersecurity? Or if something happens, who is responsible for the incident management? And in the past, that was really easy. We said, okay, the guys that know technology, they should take care of this. And that was okay, that was appropriate. They are usually the ones that can deal with this. But now we see that if there is an attack taking place, this can be threatening for a company. This can be threatening for a government. So the key decision makers in those institutions, whether it's the board on the C-level or whether it's a minister, they realize I might need to get involved there. And that is a really difficult transition period we're currently in. Because while there are technical standards that are defining what you need to do with regard to your technology, ISO standards, DIN norms, everything is out there, it's very difficult. There is a gap of standards when it comes to the involvement of top decision makers. And I'm trying to show you this through the graphic. There is something that I call a leadership corridor. There are some decisions that will definitely need to be taken by a minister or a board. The top decision makers can't get out of it. They cannot carefully slide under the table and say, no, I'm not going to take this decision. So there is no doubt they have to take this decision. And then there's a corridor that they can define, where they can say, do I want to get involved? Is there a good reason to be involved? Or do I better want to stay out of this? And then there is an area, if they're stepping into it, and that's the bottom part here, we see micromanagement. It's going to be a mess. When you see board members all of a sudden taking decisions that are way below their pay grade, and they're trying to influence technical processes that they don't understand, then you've lost. So what you need to define this corridor. You need to define really how much do I want to get involved. And that's very individual. Each company needs to look into its own risk perspective. Nobody can tell you exactly what your risk perspective is, what your individual risk profile is, because it's different. Each company has a different one. So don't follow what others are doing, just look at what the risks are. What risks are associated to your business, what are the most likely things, and then develop your strategies. Okay, now coming to the main point. Why are we here today? So what large enterprises and governments are doing is they're preparing through simulations. That means they're not sitting there and saying, okay, what are the most likely attacks? And then they're saying, okay, fine, we got a solution for it. But one of the things they realized is that when an attack takes place, you're under stress, and it's going to be different. It's going to be different to taking decisions at a table. And therefore, we're running simulations with them. We're trying to simulate a real-world attack and give the decision makers the chance to take the decisions. And that's actually what we're going to do here today. So the organizers thought about something for you, something special to show you, and they wanted to give you an inside view into how governments on a ministerial level and boards of large enterprises are preparing for cyber attacks. Now, what we're doing here is we're not simulating an attack against a real company, but we're using a fictitious company. Everybody here and everybody in the audience is now, you're now the management of a company. I'm going to show you the company, going to show you a short video so that you're aware, and then I would like to interact with you. There are a couple of attacks happening, and I'm going to ask you to put up your hand for an option. I'm going to give you different options how to respond. And you can decide where we're going. If you want to go left or right or whatever, I'm going to follow your trace. We're going to see how this thing develops. Everybody clear so far? Okay, let's have a look at the company. I promise you, you're in the management now of a really good company, so check your salary, check your bank account. Could be really tremendous. So here we go. Hartmann.
Hartmann is one of the leading retail companies. The company runs retail stores in various countries and operates several successful online shops. Founded in 1974, the stock-listed company expanded globally and today ranks amongst the top 10. The number of employees and profits rise constantly, and the stock price is at an all-time high. For more than 10 years, the implementation of digital services has been a priority, and the board just approved the strategy towards an all-digital future. That will bring major innovations, including increasing investments into AI and machine learning. Hartmann, the retail company.
Well, that looks good, right? Okay, you're the board. You can spend. It's a good time. You saw that the picture stopped in between. I was tempted to say, hey, that's part of an attack, but of course not. No. So the details of this company are clear. It's a company that invested in AI and modern technology. You're driving this process. You are on the forefront, which is really important. And oh, okay. Maybe the cable. I'm gonna.
Hartmann. We condemn a new strategy that will substitute humans by machines and ruin the future of many just to fill your pockets. We are anonymous. We're legion. We do not forget. We do not forgive. To make sure that you listen, today we start Operation Hartmann. Our attacks will start now.
Okay, somebody's not so happy about AI and your strategy towards an all-digital future. This is an overview from our cybersecurity guys. They're already working on this. They said, you know, right now we cannot really see if something happening. We just received the video so far. We see a little bit more traffic, but I mean, we have sometimes a lot of traffic on our network, so it's not that it automatically means there is an attack going on. So my first question to you is, how serious do you take the situation? How serious do you take it if you're getting a video like this? And I'm going to give you three options. Option one, you're taking it very serious and you think, crisis management should meet now. Option two, well, let's monitor the situation, see if something happens, if something materializes. Or option three, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do in a situation like this. So who is in favor of option one? Okay, good. Crisis management should meet. Option two, let's first of all see what happens. A few less people. And then who says, I'm not sure? Nobody honest here? Okay, no. Okay, good. I mean, we're here, cyber incident simulation. It's a good idea to pick option one. I mean, maybe something is going to happen. So, but on the other hand side, if you're freaking out every time I'm sending you a video like this, you're going to be on alert all the night, all the time. There's basically no level. So you, at one point, will need to decide when am I going to take a video serious and when not, and what are the criteria. So, but good. Okay, let's take the serious and let's see that the crisis management is meeting. Let's say, what attacks do you believe are most realistic in a scenario like this? You know your company now, you're a successful online company, that means you're depending on information technology. And what do you think? First one, I don't expect anything to happen. You know, these are just guys that are sending out videos, and I'm not really taking it that serious. Or option two, attacks against our online services. This is where we are vulnerable. Or do you think, no, they're more going to go on the inside, ransomware? I know there might be different options you have in mind, but let's stick to the three. So who is in favor of option one? Saying no, okay. So just one person. Then online services, a few more, and ransomware. Yeah, because it's pretty popular at the moment. I mean, there are a lot of ransomware attacks, so that might be a very good starting point. Very good. Next one, the damage. So you're the board. I don't want to say you have to pay this out of your pocket, but what are we talking about when we're talking about an attack against a company like this? So we have a successful company, but we're not talking about one of the top companies in the world. Would you say, if they carry out an attack, just something, the typical things you're going to read on the newspaper, do you think the damage is going to be something less than 500,000 US dollar? Or would you say, no, I think it's bigger, it's in the range between 500,000 and 5 million? Or would you say, no, wait a moment, I mean, if something happens there, that's going to be really expensive. We're talking about more than 5 million. I think it's really important to get a good understanding of just where we're standing. How dangerous is this to your company? Because if you're a traditional production company and I'm telling you your factory is on fire, you might have a good understanding how much will it cost me? How long will it interrupt my business? How much will it cost me to build a new factory? How many machines did I have in there? Where can I buy them? And stuff like this. But when it comes to online, sometimes people are less secure. So just, I mean, it's very difficult for you to estimate this at this stage, but just your feeling. Where do you think we're standing? Who says it's going to be less than 500,000? Nobody. Okay, between 500,000 and 5 million, we got quite a few more people, and then between more than 5 million. Okay, so you're tending into the right direction. I don't want to discuss numbers now. I don't want to say, is it 4.5 or 5.5, and is it 2 or 3? But in general, it's very important to keep in mind that those attacks that we've witnessed over the last 3, 4, or 5 years are becoming more and more expensive for companies. There are various reasons for this. The more you're depending on information and communication technology, the more costly it will be. And especially if we see sophisticated attacks. If this is a malware that they're, for example, using that's deep in your system, it will not be easy to remove it. So you need to prepare for this. And if you're aware that this can cost you something like 5 million, that's something that most companies then will take serious. So that is one of the reasons why you as a board might want to be involved. You might say, I want to have something to say in here. Now, good thing is you have something to say, and the good thing is it seems somebody is willing to help you here. So we got an email from compliance from Mr. Faber. Dear members of the executive board, with regard to the threatening video from Anonymous, please find attached the emergency cyber incident response plan. Sounds official. Okay, that includes detailed checklist. From a compliance perspective, I recommend to follow the plan. I mean, what do you expect from a compliance officer? He's telling you follow the plan. Now, my question to you, I mean, you're a board, you're the decision makers. What are you going to do? Are we going to say, okay, we're going to open and follow the plan, we're actually really going to do what they're asking us to do? Or do we say, no, I completely ignore this? Or would you say, okay, let's find middle ground. Let's say, let's have a look what our cybersecurity policy recommends, but we're leaving our decisions open. We're not going to follow it word by word, but we might need to interpret this as a board. We're taking the ultimate decision. Who's in favor of option 1? Follow the plan? Quite a few. Then who says, no, I'm going to ignore this? What do I care about lists? Nobody. And then who says, let's be flexible, let's open it, but then be flexible? Okay, very good. Let's have a look at this PDF document sent to us. PDF document seems to have a problem, doesn't work. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I'm sorry, I won't be able to present you the checklist. We have to go this freestyle to go. Some people are smiling now. Okay, yeah, this could be an attack. I mean, people are telling us all the time, don't open emails from people. But this looked like legitimate, so I think we were tempted to open it. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get us this PDF document. But I got good and bad news. The good news is those of you who said there could be a ransomware attack happening next, this is something you anticipated, you were right. The bad news is some of our machines are affected now. Now, the criminals came up with a very sophisticated plan. So we have some machines that are infected. Right now, we don't know how big the problem is. We don't know if the media delivery servers are affected. We just know that in our administration and so on, some machines are down. And the criminals came up with a very sophisticated plan. They said they encrypted our files. They give us a software to decrypt our files if we're paying them a ransom. They say, don't go to the police. Don't try to decrypt them yourself. They even give us a software to decrypt one file to show that their software works. And then they're sending us to the darknet and say, come on, we're telling you how to pay. They basically want Bitcoin. So let's say they won 200,000 US dollar in Bitcoin. My question to you is, and this is of course a mean question because there are a lot of things we could discuss in this context, but if I'm telling you, or if we discussed the possible damage is something between 500,000 and 5 million, or even bigger than 5 million, would you consider to pay the ransom? If your team tells you, you know what, in the worst case, it's going to cost us 5 million, they're offering us 200,000 via Bitcoin. So my first question, who would say option one? Yes, if the financial impact of an attack, of a successful attack, is bigger than the ransom I need to pay, and maybe even much bigger, I consider it. Number two, no. Praying to criminals is not an option. I'm never, ever going to pay criminals. And number three, I'm undecided. Okay, who's in favor of option one? Let's go. If this is, yeah, there are a few people in the background. Then no, paying to criminals is not an option. Okay, and who says I'm undecided? Okay, good. So we have basically a split board. We're uncertain. And that's exactly the situation that the companies are confronted with. There are various, it's a very difficult situation. In the past, it used to be easy. We just said, you know, never pay to criminals. But then you're realizing all around you that the companies are paying criminals, and they're saying it's a good investment. It's much cheaper, you know. We see those companies that decided not to pay, and they suffered really badly. And then everybody's finger pointing and say, you know what? You have take the city of Atlanta that had an attack like this. They decided not to pay. The ransom was something, I think, less than 100,000. I think it was 50,000. And the damage they suffered was more than 2 million. So everybody was finger pointing and say, why didn't you pay the 50,000 if now you have such a big damage? And others are saying, yeah, but be careful. I know who you're paying to. Is it maybe going to bring me in trouble with the administration if I'm paying to criminals that are on a blacklist? So it's a very, very difficult territory. It's a minefield. And you need to prepare for this in advance. If you start doing it when you get the ransom, when they're asking for the ransom, when you get this letter, the extortion letter, way too late. You can't take a good decision. And apart from this, I mean, even if as a board you're taking the decision and say, okay, we're going to pay, who of you is working for a company that has a Bitcoin account where you can pay 200,000? If you don't have a Bitcoin account, that's going to be difficult. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why I believe that those preparations are really important. I would love to go through more examples with you. The plot could develop for a long period of time, but I want to use my remaining time to give you a short debrief and talk to you a little bit about what the difficulties are. Each and every company is today confronted with cyber attacks. There's no question. There's basically no way that if you're using information and communication technology, you will not potentially suffer some kind of attack. It's not because there's any mistake you're making. The difficulty is that technology is vulnerable up to a certain extent, even if we make it better and better. And therefore, you need to prepare for being in a situation like this. And one of the difficulties is if you've never gone through a situation like this, it is really very, very difficult to respond appropriate. It's under stress. It's very difficult to take those decisions. And usually it only works when you have discussed this in advance. When the key decision makers in a company have come together and say, okay, what are the most likely attacks against my company? And if something like this happens, how do we respond? If everybody's on the same page. Because you will realize that the situation we had here, where half of the board says we go this way and the other half says the other way, that's normal. But you cannot afford this in a situation like this. Okay, so situation is getting worse. You're seeing this. There are a lot of attacks taking place all around us. It has a political dimension. We saw this in the context of elections. We see this in the context of large businesses. The number of businesses that are affected, a lot of them are critical infrastructure, so nobody can say, I can ignore this. It's really a serious thing. And we can also see that it is a very difficult decision. I mentioned Atlanta, so I was right, 50,000 was the ransom and 2.6 million was afterwards the ultimate damage when they didn't pay. Now, I would say that both countries and companies are in a particularly difficult situation when it comes to ransomware. The reason is there is so much ransomware out there. And one of the contributing factors, from my perspective, is that insurance got involved in this business. I'm not saying that insurance is carrying out attacks, but companies realized there are attacks like this going on, ransomware attacks, and they were seeking for solutions. And one of the solutions that they found were insurance companies that offered coverage. And when you have an insurance company that offers coverage, usually they want to have a word. When they say, we're willing to pay the ransom if you're if you're the victim of such attack, they're saying, we're taking the decision if we should pay or not. And they're going to calculate this very often, very rationally. They're going to say, what's the probable damage and what is the ransom? And then they're saying, good, for us it's economically a better decision to pay. And because a lot of payments were made, this motivated the offenders. And therefore, we have a real economy of extortion. And this is the environment you're living in, that you have to deal with, that all of us have to deal with. And therefore, we need to make these plans. Okay, last point. There are a couple of general recommendations I can give. So I cannot give you the ultimate recommendation how you should prepare and what you should do and how you should respond in a cyber attack, because it's depending on so many factors, on your business, on your leadership style, on your leadership team. This is all relevant in this regard. But what I can tell you is that one of the things a good manager will look for is the perfect solution for a problem. That means they're always looking for possibly a bad outcome and a good outcome, and they will aim for the good outcome. We really have difficulties if we have to take decisions where the outcome is anyway going to be bad. You're going to lose anyway. It's just the question, how badly are you going to lose? And we've seen that even very, very good leaders are struggling with a situation like this. They're facing difficulties when they have to pick between those two. And this is exactly what the criminals are doing. They're designing a scenario where you can only lose, and where sometimes this leads to management being incapable of taking decisions. That's the first message. Then the next message for you is you need to prepare for this. I guess we've all been to a plane several times. And every time you're going to a plane, they're giving you clear instructions what you have to do in case of an emergency. If you're flying over water, they're telling you exactly where your life vest is. And they're giving you instructions what to do in case of landing on the water. It means take out the life vest, put it around you, close it tight, but don't inflate it. Do this when you're outside of the plane. Now, to be very realistic, seeing it from a pure statistical point of view, is the likelihood that when you get on board of a plane you will be involved in an accident is very, very, very low. The likelihood that this will happen over water is even lower. The likelihood that if an accident happens over water and you're going to land is even lower. And now, if the pilot is taking the decision to land on the water, the chances that you will have to struggle remembering whether you should inflate it before or after leaving the airplane is very, very limited. The chances that you're not going to survive landing on the water is very, very high. Nevertheless, we're telling you each and every time what you have to do. The reason is that you get a routine. And so we have people in this room that are perfectly equipped to deal with a very, very, very unlikely situation of landing on the water and you having to exit the plane. You know exactly what to do. But when it comes to the most likely cyber attack scenarios, I think there might be one or the other person in the room who would say openly, well, I'm not 100% sure that I really exactly know what the steps are and whether basically I should inflate my life jacket before or afterwards. This is the kind of knowledge we have to ensure that the key decision makers have. And just to stick to the analogy of planes again, you say everybody's excited traveling again, including myself. If you ever looked into a cockpit when a pilot is preparing the plane for takeoff, you will see that they're using checklist. I mean, pilots are trained for one kind of aircraft. They should be able to deal with this without a checklist. I mean, they're doing it every day. They should know what button to press. The reason why they're sticking to the checklist is not that they don't know what to do, but there is always the risk in a situation like this that you forget something, and therefore they're using checklists. So I believe it's really important to prepare yourself through checklist. And with this, with 13 seconds left, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you were able to take something with this from how boards and governments are preparing for cyber attacks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Gerke. Bardzo byłem ciekaw, jak Państwo wytypują tą wysokość okupu, o który tutaj pytał właśnie przed chwilą profesor Gerke. Nie wiem, czy śledzicie Państwo wydarzenia właśnie takie ataku ransomware. Tydzień temu miał miejsce atak na bardzo dużą sieć sklepów detalicznych i tam wysokość okupu pierwotna, jaką zażądali cyberprzestępcy, wyniosła, uwaga, $240 milionów. Więc te skromne $5 milionów, które były pokazane tutaj, naprawdę są kwotą niewielką. Jak w takim razie zabezpieczyć nasze firmy przed taką cyberprzestępczością i czy są takie rozwiązania, które sprawdzają się w każdej organizacji? Czy takie technologie jak 5G czy internet rzeczy niosą ze sobą nowe zagrożenia dla firm? O tym z profesorem Marco Gerke porozmawiają Aleksandra Karasińska, redaktor naczelna Forbes Women Polska i Piotr Markowicz, dyrektor marketingu i rozwoju produktów ICT w Orange Polska. Zapraszam na scenę.
Okay, hello, welcome again on Business Insider Trends. My name is Aleksandra Karasińska and I'm editor-in-chief of Forbes Women Polska. And we will continue on with cybersecurity, and I will repeat our guests. So Professor Marco Gerke, an expert in the field of cybersecurity, director and founder of Cybercrime Research Institute. Again, Professor, pleasure to have you in Warsaw. And another expert, Piotr Markowicz, ICT B2B product and offer development director at Orange Polska. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Professor Gerke, you mentioned about digital revolution, how it changed our world, the way we do business. And those companies that has transferred to digital are growing and winning. But our economy is all about data. As slogan says, data is new oil. Is it true from your perspective that these big companies, those companies, organizations, also governments, which owns data and has access to big data and also can protect the data, has the real power now?
Yeah, I strongly believe that this is not all about data. You can't eat data. So ultimately, I don't believe that we're moving towards an economy where data is the only available good. I think we're far away from this. However, as we heard in previous presentation, data enriches a lot of things. Intelligence is really important. So for each and every company that is out there, whether you're in the food business or hospitality or anything else, having access to data is giving you a better view of where you're standing and you're not navigating in the dark. So I strongly believe that companies need access to data. You will hardly be able to survive in an environment where some have access to data and the other don't. And those ones who are using the data in an appropriate way, who find a way to really utilize this, to make sense of it, not just having it somewhere, but using it in a positive way, they're going to benefit. And to pick up on your last point, which I think is a very important distinction, if you're unable to protect the data, if you're unable to prove also to your customers that you're using it for legitimate purposes and don't abuse their trust, I think that is an important component. So protecting the integrity of data is seen as important because it can really damage your reputation if you don't.
Okay, thank you. Piotr Markowicz, we've seen the presentation and your great speech, but what kind of security challenges this new reality brings, especially in context of 5G and Internet of Things that we are, approaching very, very fast?
From my side, maybe I'll first comment the word of, the digital data is the new oil. It's in certain extent true. I would give even example from the stock market. If someone is observing Dow Jones 30, we saw last year that the fully digital company, Salesforce.com, has replaced an ExxonMobil, so traditional oil company, which was there from 1928, so almost 100 years, all the time in the row. Right now, it was replaced by the digital company. So even in that extent, we see that it's happening. But coming to the points about 5G and IoT, what we will face is the really massive devices, So we are ready with 5G from the operator point of view, network and IoT, to serve the mass devices per square kilometer. We are talking about numbers like millions of devices per square kilometer, the devices which are sending information one direction or bidirections, which part of them are mobile, like autonomous cars, and part of them even as autonomous cars as well, or some drones, they have intelligence built in. And the point is how you manage it from the technological point of view. So this is the challenge one in front of us, how to address the situation. There will be things we are using right now, and there will be new things because this data transmitted grows exponentially. So we need to use some extra things, as we heard of AI, to be able to understand it. The second point on that area is that right now with the cybersecurity, from the business point of view, we are thinking, okay, I have my business plan, I want to implement it, I will get money out of it, and of course, in this digital world, the kind of cybersecurity is critical for my business, so I invest part of that money as well in cybersecurity. In the near future, as the world is getting totally digital, cybersecurity is not longer just a critical function for the business, it's core. It's core and critical. So you are not able to do your business plan in the future if you are thinking that cybersecurity is only critical. It's part of your business. It will be your USP on the market. For instance, in the drone, if you are going to the drone company, you have a good business plan, you transport something from point A to B, and this is actually all profitable, comparing the traditional transportation. If you will not ensure that the drones will not be takeover, you will not have the golden button to tell the takeover or hack drones to go to the base and actually unload instead of making the damage to the people, you will not be able to do this business. That's as simple as that. And the third point is as well, as we know in this world, it's an interplay of all the enterprises, entities, and so on. So actually, you can't ensure security once you are in a connected world acting alone. So the critical point is that we are able to organize government institution providers, service operators like mobile operators or cloud operators, and business acting together to ensure ecosystem of cybersecurity. There will be no single person and no single organization which can ensure cybersecurity of our business end-to-end in this ecosystem. So those are the three things I would like to share with you, and they, I think, very important in this new world. Thank you.
Would you like to comment on that? 5G, what kind of threats? Because we are looking at this new technology as huge opportunity.
No, absolutely. I see 5G as one of the mega trends which are really important to look out for. And I think those people who believe that 5G just means that you can download your cat videos on YouTube faster just didn't get the point. That's not the point of this revolution. It will enable us to connect devices to the internet that we were unable to connect before, for example, because they needed an immediate response. We heard in a previous presentation that surgery is one of the areas where we're going to see a lot of technical developments, and I agree. I did study medicine for a while, my wife is a doctor. There are so many amazing things happening in this field, but you want a reliable connection, and in the previous networks we didn't have this. Now we, for the first time, have this reliable, ultra-fast connection where we get an immediate response. So I think, yes, absolutely, it offers great opportunities. I think it's one of the technical developments where a lot of thoughts were invested in securing it by design, right from the beginning. And I believe that this is something which makes it different from previous technical megatrends. But still, there risk, absolutely, no question.
We are talking about threats, about risk. I was thinking about a question for you. Has this last year, the COVID crisis, changed the situation in the context of security?
I think it changed a lot because the companies who so far were not digital, they had a very low digital level, they all become digital, and not because they were forced to by the situation, they were forced by the customers who went more digital. But coming to that point, if we are looking into kind of cybersecurity approach for that, because there are a lot of new threats from the cybersecurity, to have it in the company, you need to kind of be ready for that. So, and be ready for new threats. There's a lot of questions. What is the golden rule to be ready for new threats? And there is no golden answer for that. My advice would be to be pragmatic, so actually to implement the cybersecurity policies on the end devices as we are doing. We will have more of those devices, cybersecurity policies on the network, infrastructure and applications. You need to take care for the people and invest in the people awareness that hackers, apart from, we are protecting from the technology side, maybe it's easier to hack you from the personal side and your stuff. The other point as well, you need to take into consideration, of course, that you have the cybersecurity strategy, cybersecurity policies, and all these things which is gluing technology, people, and your kind of internal process and behavior. And last but not least, you need to have a really professional cybersecurity partner if you are enterprise, because typically you will not be able, it will not be economically justified for you to create the professional services that are able to match all these things. I can give you an example from the Orange. So in Orange, we have 200 cybersecurity experts who are working 24/7. We are certified according to international standards. We are in interactions with all the partners and providers of the cybersecurity tools and equipment about the cybersecurity threats. So we have the knowledge on that. And as well, through our network goes almost 50% of the internet traffic in this country. On top of that, we have the tools, we have machine learning algorithms already to provide you the knowledge about the threats and to protect you from the threats. Being in an enterprise, you cannot recreate it. You cannot recreate it. It will be not kind of economically justified, so it's important to have such a partner and to actually implement end-to-end cybersecurity policy. And in 8 years, of course, you need to have AI instead of us, which will be a billion times more intelligent and will cope with future threats in that area.
Thank you. Last very quick question, a short advice. There are many small enterprises, many small businesses in Poland. Majority of Polish economy is built on that. Would you give us basic advice for them, how to measure risk versus costs?
Yeah, I believe it's a difficult situation. I mean, this is the backbone of most of the economies, the small businesses. And my recommendation for you would be listen to your expert in the house. I know it's always, you always trust experts from outside, advisors. You don't need any of this. From my perspective, the first step is ask the people in the organization that are responsible for the topic. There will be people dealing with risk. There will be people dealing with IT. So I'm talking about companies starting 100+ people. And then listen to them, and then let them sit together and think about what are the most likely scenarios, and develop plans and develop strategies where they might need to do some strategic investments. But I would recommend not to put the hurdle too much. I mean, you can do a lot of things in-house, and if you then feel there is need for more, get outside help.
Thank you. Cybersecurity is one of the most pressing topics for the companies right now, for the economy, but we have to stop now. So thank you again for this insightful conversation, and please stay with us in Business Insider Trends. Thank you very much.